Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. If you've been to this website, you know we are huge Ducati fans. This is my 1964 Monza, just a fantastic bike, single cylinder, almost 100-mile-an-hour bike. The classic Vega tachometer. It's a really sexy motorcycle. This one here, my 1980 900 SS, I think still one of the most beautiful motorcycles ever built. Of course, with the Desdromic drive, which is one of those unique Ducati features. And this one I bought new in 1984, the very last kickstart Ducati. This is the Halewood replica, very similar to that. But you know, Mike Halewood had won on one of these bikes, and it was probably one of the greatest racing victories of all time. So people just clamored they want a replica of the actual bike that Mike Halewood rode, and that's what it was. That was the street version of this. But what's Ducati been up to lately? Well, this is the latest. Let's bring in Jason Chinnock. Am I saying that right, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, you're the CEO of Ducati?
Yeah, CEO of Ducati North America.
Oh,
Jay.
thanks for not wearing a tie. I like that. Cool. So what do we have here?
We have the 2016 Ducati XDiavel S.
Okay. And Diavel, what means devil or something?
Yeah, it's actually is a slang term that's used.
Like Countach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much in that same vein.
Now, this is something new for Ducati because I don't think of Ducati as, would this be a cruiser style bike?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's actually our first official entry into the world of the cruiser market.
Right, okay. Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, BMW got into it a little late in the game, and you guys are really, this is really something totally new, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that we've thought about for a long time, but we wanted to make sure that if we're going to do this, we needed to do it in true Ducati fashion.
Right.
From a matter of power, performance, style, but also to deliver what people expect from a cruiser, and that's comfort.
So I'm guessing it's a cruiser that handles.
Absolutely, as you would expect a Ducati.
Well, yeah, that's the whole reason you ride a Ducati, you know. I mean, to me, there's no more stable bike than that. At least maybe it's just my old school way of thinking, but when you get in a fast sweeper and you got it cranked over, it's like a freight train. It's just fantastic. It just holds a line with that long wheelbase and the big V-twin pounding under you. What is this, about 1,200 cc's? That's what it is?
Yeah, 1262.
Okay.
4-valve liquid-cooled engine. It delivers 156 horsepower.
Okay, now that I believe was 80, something like that, 80 horsepower. Which it still seemed plenty fast to me, but it was, because this is a whole different world. And of course, this has got ABS, traction control, every conceivable thing like that, right?
Absolutely. The intention here is that we were actually able to bring something to market that embraced all of the technology that we've been developing on our superbikes over the years, but in a package that's applicable to the street, that gives you not only the performance that you would expect from Ducati, but also the safety that you would also expect from a modern motorcycle as well.
Right. And it's a feet-forward type design, which is unusual for Ducati. They've never done that, have they?
Absolutely. In fact, this is really the first time in a production motorcycle we've addressed the feet-forward option. We've done some other things that maybe look like power cruisers in the past, but with the feet always directly underneath you in a mid-control position. This, with the feet forward, we had to find a solution that it still allowed us to have a lean angle that you would expect of a Ducati without dragging parts.
Yeah, I'm curious to try that because I'm not really a feet-forward guy. It's an odd sensation to me. So I guess you get used to it.
You and me both. The first time I sat on the bike and rode it with the feet forward, it was a little bit of a disconnect. I tried to put my feet underneath me because I'm the same way.
Right.
But then when you have put a few miles on it and you start leaning into the corners and you're comfortable in the seat, you realize the value of the feet forward.
Now, something they've done with this motor, they put the water pump in between the V, huh?
Exactly. The water pump is usually on the left side, which all the plumbing sticks out, and then which was fine when it's under a fairing.
Right.
But here, we're really focusing on the idea that the engine was king.
Right.
And with the engine being king, you want to get rid of any hot wires and hoses and anything that would take away or distract from the beauty of that motor.
Right, okay. Very cool. Single-sided swing arm, and I'm guessing this is the first time Ducati's ever used a belt, right? Except
Absolutely.
maybe in some scooters or something.
This is the first time that we've actually put it into a production motorcycle. And that was one of the things when we were looking at how we could address properly the opportunities in the cruiser market, is the belt drive, low maintenance, very smooth delivery of the power. I mean, it still is a Ducati, so when you have it in the different driving modes, you can get that whip of power that you expect, but it delivers it very linear, very smooth.
Were there a lot of arguments over the belt thing? Because I always think of Ducati as, you know, the big 530 chain in there.
You could imagine that there were a couple people throwing some espresso in the back offices. But even the same regards, like when we've stepped away from the dry clutch,
Right?
You know, and the idea is that if we found a solution that we could still do this, where it still retains its DNA of a Ducati,
Right.
and when you get a chance to ride it, you can be the judge of it yourself. You'll realize that it was actually a big step up.
Yeah, the dry clutch used to drive me crazy.
Okay.
Because you sit at a light, and people go, "Hey, you okay? Is your bike?" You know, it's just a dry clutch. Is that all right? It's making clanging noise. You just drive me crazy.
Our purists keep a tambourine in the back pocket so that they can get that sound.
Okay, very cool. 6-speed?
Yeah, 6-speed transmission, and actually 95 foot-pounds of torque as well. And that's what you're going to feel on this thing. It was really, the motorcycle was tuned for a low, smooth delivery of power, a low-end torque. So basically, peak torque is at 5,000 RPM.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite unusual for Ducati. Usually your torque is a little bit closer in the 75 range.
Right.
But here you get that torque at 5,000 RPM and you could just roll it and hold it and not really have to worry about shifting too many gears when you're running through the canyons.
Yeah, it's certainly a nice looking bike.
Yeah, from a design perspective, we approached this a little bit differently. We wanted to have something that distinctly looked like a Ducati with the trellis frame, with the teardrop shaped tank, but also to be able to find that balance of what you would expect from a cruiser, something that's long, so long wheelbase, low to the ground, about a 30-inch seat height.
And the shocks are adjustable here?
Yep, you can adjust the preload on the shock there, and you can adjust the preload and rebound on the front end as well. Okay. So you'll experience it, but it handles as you would expect like a Ducati, so you feel the road. You're not disconnected from the road in any way, shape.
And it's primarily a single seat bike. I guess this is a seat.
I used to call that the cosigner seat when I worked at a dealership.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the back seat is for one of those opportunities if you're cruising down the road and you see somebody that you happen to be able to pick up and fit on the back.
Well, you're not getting any Kardashians on the back of it.
No, unfortunately not. Or fortunately.
No Kardashians will be riding on the back of that bike. You'll be doing wheelies.
Dragging it on the rear tire.
Yeah. Well, very nice. Very cool.
One of the things that's new to Ducati is the Ducati Power Launch. And basically what this does, it's a launch control. As there's a lot of cars have that now. But it's something that we integrated in here, utilizing all the technology, the inertia control unit, the traction control, and so on and so forth.
Now, inertia control, that keeps the front end from going
That's actually wheelie control. But wheelie control actually does interact with that as well.
Oh, okay.
The inertia control will actually take into consideration the pitch. So that is a bit of that front wheel coming up, the roll as you're moving the bike from side to side, and then variations of elevation and speed in order to basically calculate what you need for the traction control to take into consideration.
I always wonder about young guys who start out with modern bikes with wheelie control and inertia control and ABS, and then you hop on something like that. It must be scary as heck. Why is the bike sliding? Why is it doing this? Why is the front wheel locking up? What's going on? You know?
It's a whole nother world. As I mentioned, I actually got started in motorcycling in the 70s, riding Japanese 70s motorcycles when I was a kid. And that was a motorcycle that you could get yourself into trouble.
Right.
Now, but you think about it, the technologies helped us put 156 horsepower, tractable horsepower down on the ground. When you hop onto a classic bike, you know, it's a totally different feeling. But you're right, there's that risk that somebody goes back in time and hops on one of those classic motorcycles and realizes that it's a different experience altogether.
Now you got Brembo brakes. Is this link braking or are they two separate systems?
It's actually a system that allows it to change between link, front and rear. You can have front only. It's a new Bosch ABS unit that actually controls it based on the riding mode. So for example, in sport mode, it actually only controls the front brakes for ABS and it leaves your back brake unlocked from ABS. So that you can actually drift the back end a little bit and slide it if you want and pull a little flat track action.
I see. Okay, but you have to set it to that mode.
Yeah, and you can do it on the handlebar, on the fly while you're riding. So if you find yourself cruising down an open road and you have it in touring mode, and then you find a nice little twisted piece of asphalt, drop it into sport, and then ride it like you stole it.
I always wonder if these has a tendency to throw mud up in your back with the split fender here.
So far, I've spent a little bit of time on it myself, riding up from San Diego to LA, and in a little bit of inclement 405 weather.
Yeah.
So far, it's been good.
Yeah, cool. Those are the stock rear lights and.
Yep, stock rear, actually turn signals are integrated in here, and then the tail lights underneath here, just to give it a little bit of that sleek look.
What are the white lights?
Turn signals.
Oh, they're white and not red, huh?
No, so they're white, but then they change to amber.
Oh, okay.
When they turn on.
And of course, it's got cats on it and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All of in fact, it's one of the things when they were designing the exhaust system, they wanted to make sure, our designers, that they let the engine stand out in its glory.
Right.
Instead of putting a big exhaust pipe in front of it, they tuck everything nice and tight underneath so that you still get that Ducati roar.
Yeah.
Regardless of all the changes that have been happening in the world of emissions, we still have that sound that's unmistakably Ducati.
And obviously water cooled.
Yes, water cooled, and we were talking about the fact that they relocated the pump in between the cylinders, and it just allows all the plumbing to be nice and tight and contained.
Let's see. Nice ride height. And what do you carry the fob in your pocket? There's no key, right?
Yeah, exactly. You actually just put the key in your pocket, and when you have that key in your pocket, it allows you to have...
Sounds like a Ducati. Let's see, so take us through the modes here. What do we have?
So right here we have our backlit switches that allow you to select the different riding modes on the motorcycle. So basically when you're riding, you can actually change between the different modes by just pushing this button to the left.
Okay.
And here we're in urban mode, which means that the engine, the delivery of the power in urban mode is at a low delivery of the power, so nice and smooth and linear, keeps it at 100 horse. Traction control setting at 6, and then the ABS at 3. You go to sport, it's a regressive delivery of the power, lowers the traction control in the ABS settings, and then touring gives you 156 horsepower, but a very smooth delivery of that power.
Gotcha, okay.
And then also you can get in and you can play with all of the other menus in here. You can change the info mode, which allows you to change the actual display. Right now we're in full, but let's say you're riding around in the city and you want to just see a big speedometer there. For riding around the city, you've got that there as well with the gear position indicator. Yeah, without the tach. But you know, any self-respecting motorcyclist wants to have a tach on the dash. So you go back in and change it.
You put it in sport.
Sport or full. I'll put it in track right now. And then you can see here, it does the opposite. It gives you a big speedometer. A big, excuse me, a tachometer up there with a speedometer there in the center. But you also, you lose your fuel gauge and a couple other things of visibility, which if you're riding on the track.
And what's the tank, 4.5 gallons?
Yeah, 4.5 gallons.
And where's sport? I didn't see sport there.
So they call it track.
Oh, okay.
They don't line up the different driving modes with the different riding modes. So the display modes are a little bit different. But and then personally, I like full because then you have full visibility of everything as well.
Okay.
A couple other technology things is the Bluetooth, that you can have access so that you can say you're listening to music. Personally, I like the roar of the motor, but some people like to listen to music while they're going.
Yeah, if you're listening to music and talking, and then, how do I adjust my... And then, I'm not real big on that.
It's about experiencing the road and the smells and the sounds.
Oh, yeah, very cool.
When you're riding.
Well, let's give it a shot. Let's experience the smell and the sounds and take it for a ride. Well, first impression is pretty easy bike to ride. You know, 4-valve heads don't have as much lower end, as much torque as a 2-valve head, so you still have to rev it a little bit, but it's still got plenty of torque. It's unusual to ride a bike and not see the headlight in front of you. I keep thinking, this does not have a, oh, there it is, you know. I must say I don't mind the feet forward as much as I thought I would. It's just that when you spend 50 years riding motorcycles a certain way, it's weird to get used to a different position. But it's certainly comfortable enough. See, I'm not sure I'd call this a cruiser motorcycle. It seems like an all-around bike. It handles very nicely. It stops very well. I guess technically it is a cruiser because of the feet forward thing. It looks like a big bike, but once you're on it, it's actually quite nimble. Ducati is one of the great Italian brands. It's so uniquely Italian, especially the early ones. About 4 or 5 years ago, they got bought by Audi, and Audi did wonderful things for Lamborghini. Increased the brand 1,000%, made them reliable, made them fast, and still kept the whole Lamborghini thing, you know. So I think that's what they're doing with Ducati. You've got a Ducati without the spaghetti electrics of the early bikes. I mean, I've got some Ducatis from the 60s, and oh my God, all the wires are the same color. How can you trace anything? Pulls very nicely. I'd like a little more noise out of that pipe myself. You know, it's funny, I spent so much time riding vintage motorcycles that this modern stuff is a revelation to me. It's just amazing how well it does everything. Clutch, finger light, front brake, one finger. You know, I'm used to grabbing front brake with like a vice grips just to get the thing to slow down. So to have something like this, it's pretty amazing. Your red line is still 8 grand on this thing, even though most of your torque comes on about 5,000. You know, if you're used to big American cruisers that have anywhere from 70 to 90 horsepower, this thing with 156 horsepower, this will feel like a revelation. Oh my God. Handlebar position, very nice. Very comfortable. You know, I like cafe bikes, but as I get older, riding that BMW RR, you know, down low, it gets a little tiring. This is actually a very relaxing bike to ride. You know, almost all the guys I ride with like sport bikes, cafe bikes, and you'd think those would be the most popular, but they're really not. This cruiser segment, this is the most popular segment of the market, at least in terms of sales. You know, most people, especially in the Midwest, got those long, flat, straight roads. They just want something that's comfortable and torquey. Florida's like that too. Not a lot of good roads in Florida. Although I'm sure the comment section will be filled with good riding roads in Florida, but it's not like California. We got all these mountain passes, and it's just fantastic. You know, the whole visual impact of a cruiser type motorcycle is how the engines stand out. You look at a Vincent, Harley Davidson, especially the new Indian, even the Yamaha, the VMAX, you know, the engine is the center point. And they've done a good job with that. They've really accentuated the V-twin very well. And I love the way they put the water pump in between the V to take all the ugly plumbing out of it. Once again, the riding position, very comfortable. I don't find myself getting tired. I don't find my arms put a lot of strain on it, have to heave it left and right. You just kind of think where you want the bike to go, and it does that. I mean, brakes are incredible. I'm not a big linked braking fan, and I like the fact that you have the option of this bike. I think it's probably safe to say there's no other V-twin in the cruiser market that has this kind of power. They might have as much torque, but I don't know if they're making this kind of horsepower. The nice thing is, it seems to become a sport bike the minute you will it so, you know? You kind of go, oh, throws it in a corner a little bit. It's not, doesn't plow at all, very, very light to the touch. It's amazing how good modern motorcycles have become. It's just unbelievable. Nice thing is, even in direct sunlight, I can still read the gauge package. A lot of times I hate digital speedos because on a sunny day, you can't see anything. But this one is actually okay. But it's a nice middle ground between being a real thumper and a high rever. You know, it revs pretty high for for a cruiser type motorcycle. Red line is what, almost 9 grand on this thing? But you get your peak torque around 5,000 RPM, so makes it easy. Well, this is where it starts becoming a cruiser and becomes more of a sport bike. It does handle very, very nice. Boy, it's very good. You know, sometimes it's good to get out of the shop and just take the bike up in the hills like this and park it. Just kind of walk around it, see what it looks like in the daylight. Certainly pretty enough bike, I guess. Well, you know, this styling is probably controversial. People either love it or hate it. I grew up in a different era when bikes were a lot simpler and you could kind of see through them. But they've done a great job of putting a lot of stuff in a reasonably sized package. It feels lighter than I'm sure it is. It is extremely comfortable. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the feet forward thing, and I would probably get more of a rear set. But that being said, I didn't find it uncomfortable to ride. You know, this is controversial to me. I come from the era of, you know, kind of look down and see the headlight right here. But that's modern styling. And the build quality is probably the greatest it's ever been. Like I said, I came from the era of Ducatis when you'd open the seat and it looked like some sort of spaghetti bolognese or something. Oh my God, there's wires going everywhere. I mean, this is really well put together. And of course, the classic Ducati frame, the beautiful wells. It's an impressive bike. And the nice thing is, you know, it doesn't, you push a little bit in your pocket and you shut it off, it isn't going bing, bing. It isn't all hot and bothered. It's, I mean, I hardly push the bike at all. I mean, you're rarely out of third or fourth gear. You need to be on the freeway to get into sixth, but you've got all kinds of torque. I like what they've done here, this sort of bit of artwork, I guess you'd call it, sort of accentuating where the overhead cams and the cotton rods would go. Exhaust tucked nicely in. Single-sided swing arm. It's a great bike. You know, if you're looking for a cruiser that's got some real power, because a lot of cruisers, as I said before, they're 65 to maybe 85, 90 horsepower, which is more than enough because they got a lot of torque. But this is 156 horsepower. I mean, it's a fast bike and it's a cruiser when you want to cruise. It's a sport bike when you want to be sporty. And you could get a non-Kardashian passenger on there, no problem. So I think they've done a nice job. You know, my last new Ducati was 84. What do you think? See you next week.